Hello and welcome back. Glad you all could be here. Washburn, Blue Steel, Ed Benoit. Take a tongue twister a little bit because it's just for me. Sheila Lamont, thank you for being here. Dome Seeker in the house. Donald Curtis, hello. Glad you all could be here. U.S. threatens China and India and a few others. Is that really the best thing that we should be doing right now? Now, I know some of you probably didn't hear about the U.S. threatening China. What you heard was that the U.S., if you heard it, is that the U.S. imposed 500 new sanctions on Russia over things that happened in Russia, primarily the death of the opposition leader, all right, while he was in that prison camp, whatever it might be. What you didn't hear was that what they said with those 500 new sanctions was basically, in a nutshell, and I'm surmising here, is they told China and India that if you don't participate in the sanctions, then we will sanction you as well. Is it really good policy to be threatening a country with sanctions, countries, China and India, when they control the vast majority of our medical supplies, when we're already on touchy ground with them? No, this is just another ploy by the elites, in my opinion, in Washington, D.C. to push. Well, they've already poked the bear, and the bear came out of its hibernation and started swatting the shit out of Ukraine. All right. And now they're poking the dragon because, why not have a war on two fronts? Yes. So don't think that, and that's what I say all the time. Like I said last night and a few nights before, the Chinese government doesn't have anything against you or me. They simply don't like the same people we don't like for basically the same reasons that we don't like them, that they won't leave us the hell alone. Okay. In other news, the Democrats have suggested that, and I will read it, without clear guidance from the Supreme Court, House Democrats suggest they might not certify a Trump win on January 6th. Isn't that the exact same thing that they were trying to say that Trump was attempting to do on January 6th? The irony that the House Democrats would suggest, what's the word? Insurrection. Is just laughable. Okay. Brian Keith, thank you for being here. See, you just got here. No problem. Outlaw Farms, glad you can be here. Joe Morgan, glad you're here. Outlaw Farm says the U.S. needs to take care of here and not worry about other countries. Yes, well, we need to stop giving them the ability. And it's funny because we're not the only ones who said that. Let me slide over here a little bit. The El Salvadorian, El Salvador, that place where the MS-13, that gang that's really brutal, originated. He's recently done a huge crackdown, a serious crackdown on gangs and stuff. You may have seen it on YouTube videos or on news. Human rights groups are saying what the El Salvadorian president is doing violates human rights. He's built one of the world's largest prisons. He's really cracked down. But here's what he had to say at CPAC. All right. He was here in the U.S. and he said, Mr. Burkle, the president of El Salvador, told the conference that the next U.S. president will have to have the courage to do whatever it takes. to overcome the dark forces that he says were trying to control the U.S. He received loud applause from when he attacked institutions, including what he called corrupt judges and fake news in both his country and the United States. He also reportedly cast an undefined group of global elites as an oppressive enemy with power over the media and politics. The people of this is a quote from him. The people of El Salvador have woken up, and so can you. The global elites, they hate our success and they fear yours. See, I'm not the only one. You're not the only one who see that and maybe you don't see that the elites, the people in Washington, the 535 people that pretty much, and a few corporate CEOs that run this nation, are afraid of you. They're afraid of what you are capable of. It's why they go after the Second Amendment so much. That's why they try to push their divide the nation. Divide us by race, divide by religion, because divide and conquer. United, they fall. Okay. And while we're on the topic of division, let's talk about, there's been a lot of chat over the past year or so of reparations. All right. This is a tactic that the elites use, especially on the left. The elites use to try to drive that wedge. If you've ever dropped a tree, if you've ever fell a tree, you'll make your cut, make a horizontal cut, you cut your wedge out, make a horizontal cut, and you'll drive a wedge into that. And then you smack it a few times with the hammer, and it makes the divide start to grow. It helps direct the tree in the way you want it to fall. But that's what they do. They drive a wedge in between. Once they've created that small gap, oh, well, we should give, African descendants reparations. They'll stick that wedge in there, and then they'll slam it. Trying to divide arguably two of the largest groups in America, the whites and the blacks, the Caucasians and the Africans. Yes, there's a large Hispanic population also, but right now they need to focus on that divide. All right. And when it comes to reparations, there are a lot of people on the left that will sympathize and say, oh yeah, well, we should. And there are black people on the right. They're like, yeah, or on the left, they say, yeah, you should. Black people on the right that say you shouldn't. And white people on the right that say you shouldn't. But I am here tonight to inform the uninformed, because that's what I like to do. I like to inform the uninformed in that reparations were already done. And I know a lot of people are clueless to that. A lot of people. There are people right now that are just flabbergasted, have never heard that before. Reparations were already done. All right. And we've talked about Africa before and how Africans, their views towards Black Americans, and they don't call them African Americans, they call them Black Americans. But the American Colonization Society, which started actually before the Civil War, before the American Civil War, there was a group of people that got together. Then they created the American Colonization Society. And it was actually in several states. There were several different chapters, if you will, organizations in several states. And they bought land in Africa, in Liberia, what is now present-day Liberia. And when they were freeing slaves before the Civil War, they would offer them, if you want, you can go over here, free land, have your freedom, start your own colony. And then post-Civil War, they were still offering that. And so even Frederick Douglass, if you don't know who he is, shame on you, go look him up. Even he was actually against sending freed slaves over to Liberia, because he was under the mindset that he was born in the United States and he is an American. So basically what we had post-Civil War and pre-Civil War was any slave, former slave, who wanted to go back and be repatriated was. So if you are a Black American and you're here today, it's because your ancestors didn't want that. They wanted to be American. So they turned down all of the free land. And ironically, the first thing that the freed slaves did when they went to Liberia was enslave the locals to work on their plantations. That's just a piece of ironic history. But on with the news. A Japanese Yakuza godfather, basically, in New York, has been accused, innocent until proven guilty, has been accused of trying to sell plutonium and uranium to Iran for making a nuclear weapon. Yes. Takeshi Ebisawa, 60, tried to sell uranium and plutonium that he believed would be transferred to Iran to build a nuclear bomb, it is alleged. Mr. Ebisawa and a Thai co-defendant, someone from Thailand, were previously hit with weapons and drug charges in April of 2022. He faces life imprisonment if convicted of the latest charges. So, U.S. authorities say Mr. Ebisawa, who is being held in a Brooklyn jail, is a senior figure in the Japanese organized crime syndicate known as the Yakuza, with operations in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and the United States. Just some of the fun things that you will find and learn that you don't often see on the mainstream media. In other news, the Pentagon has started investigations into 50 suspected acts of corruption in aid transfer to Ukraine. There are numerous reports of missing large amounts of missing money and missing weapons that either weren't accounted for on the other end or simply disappeared mid-transit and may be popping up somewhere else soon. You never know. The Taliban has held its third public execution. This made headlines in some news circuits because they wanted to emphasize how brutal the Taliban was. They took two men to a stadium and had a public execution. All right. The two men were convicted murderers. All right. They stabbed some people to death. And unlike our judicial system over here, the surviving family members were brought to the stadium and given the option. You can forgive them or you can execute them. Their execution has already been authorized. And so, of course, apparently the two fathers of the two deceased people shot them with machine guns. I would presume AK-47s, but it didn't clarify. But those are very common in that region. Meanwhile, if you went to some of the news websites on like page 12, Alabama has conducted its second execution for this year using the nitrogen gas suffocation method. So although one country gets it spread across the headlines, another country just gets it thrown to the back page. No big deal. I think I would prefer to, if someone murdered my child, I would prefer to be the one to do the executing. And being public, other people learn. Other people go, I don't want to be that guy standing on that field. In this country, we hide it all away. Nobody gets to see. They say, oh, something bad is happening in that building today. And that's about the end of it. And nobody actually, other than people who are already inside, go, oh, crap, maybe I don't want to do that. So maybe we should bring back the public part because we used to have it here. Over 10,000 people were evacuated in London yesterday because a World War II Luftwaffe bomb was found in someone's garden. And yes, these things were huge, 1,000 pounds. All right, 1,000-pound bomb. And it's not like today where they had your missiles have a small warhead, relatively speaking, and a lot of mechanical components to get them to go there. These were things that were 1,000 pounds, almost entirely of explosives. And they were dropped from a plane because technology back then was a lot less technical than it is today. So 10,000 people had to be evacuated yesterday in London so that they could pull this thing from the ground and ship it to the ocean, take it out and detonate it. They were going to detonate it in place. However, they came to the quick conclusion after bomb experts looked at it and said, it will level almost every building around here. So they didn't detonate it in place. They took it to the ocean. Israel at it again. Israel has authorized $203 million for new Israeli settlements in the West Bank, where that little gap on this side of Israel over here, where they're not Palestinians over here, Israel over here, where there's still Palestinians on this side. Yes, they're allocated $203 million for new settlements of their own people on that land that they're just going to take. And you wonder why the conflict will never, ever end. Quick thought. Many of you have seen the Left Behind series, I would assume. All right. If you haven't, pretty good series, entertaining at least. But if you ever wondered, well, how did all those people in Israel fall under the jurisdiction of the Antichrist? And, what was going on there? Well, now you know. Just look at what's going on. That is pretty much, I believe. Let me check. Salvador, we talked about that. Yes, that is the news for today. Hope I brought you up to speed on some things that you may or may not have known. Let me hop in the chat and see what you guys are saying. Oh, yeah. Single Dad says all for public X. Yeah, I'd be cool with it. Good evening, everyone. Share Bear. Hey, Share Bear, how you doing? I like the UV 5Gs GMRS to local comms. Oh, you must be talking to somebody. GMRS, yes, that's radios. Joe Morgan conflict ends in eradication. Whose? I mean, that's the problem. Graham equals not a good bedfellow. I'm guessing you're talking about the politician, Graham. Blades and Fades, how are you doing today? Lindsey Graham is a warmonger. Yes, he is. Absolutely. He's the one that was dumb enough to say that we should assassinate Vladimir Putin. And I'm like, that's shit you shouldn't say on the news, because people with that kind of power, not Lindsey Graham, the other one. If you make a public statement that they should possibly be sniped or send an Agent 47 against them or some shit, they're liable to send one after you first, just out of principle. Yeah, Putin is pretty rough. I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. Joe says, whoever wins, rest goes away. That's why I say we all just be cool. What could you imagine how much less conflict there would be in the world if we didn't try as a country to police it or to influence it? If we took care, if we actually made our government only take care of our borders, do you know how peaceful the rest of the world would be? Because at the end of the day, who's going to win is going to win. We drag stuff out. Everybody's like, oh, well, Ukraine can beat Russia. You're high. You need a urinalysis if you think that without other interference that they ever had a shot in hell. Because there's only a small segment of the population that doesn't identify as ethnic Rus. Rus is the root word in Russian. So there's that. And the small group that don't identify as ethnic Rus identify as Nazis. So there's that. So you can't hate Nazis in one country and love them in another country. That just defies logic. And you know what? If people want to ascribe to Nazism, go and make your own little country and just don't do the same shit and try to spread that shit everywhere else. But yeah, go live in peace somewhere. But not near me. There's just that. Washburn Billy says hold on, Pilgrim. I'm gonna get the Pilgrim first. Joe Morgan says, I am anti-world police. Yes, I agree. I'm pro local self-policing, but other than like a local sheriff's department, there should be nothing. All right. As far as law enforcement, it should all be at the local level. Pilgrim says, I agree, Rob, but someone has to be number one, and China is coming for it. Yeah, of course they're going to come for it. I mean, because we've set a precedence. And look at history. We have set a precedence that we won't stay out of anybody's business. China would be perfectly happy, probably perfectly happy doing their own little shit over there. And they'd never fully be like the only world power, isn't because Russia is right there, and Russia's never going to be like, oh yeah, you're not taking over the entire world, because then they'd be fighting and they'd be on their own continent, and that would be a really bad war. A war between Russia and China would be just like nasty, wicked nasty. The problem is the only government actively trying to conquer the entire world is us. And the only people who have told you over and over that China is trying to conquer the world is the people that are trying to conquer the fucking world. Does that make sense? At some point, you can't look at. I try to tell people over and over, you can't look at Fox News and CNN and go, oh, they're all full of shit, and then go, oh, did you hear what they said on Fox and CNN? Which is it? Are they full of shit, or are they accurate? Stop listening. Just stop listening to them. Now, does China want to take care of its people, make money, and be left alone? Yes. And then people will be like, well, but Taiwan. China owns Taiwan. It's a fact. We gave it to them after World War II. It was theirs before. We gave it back to them because the Japanese took it from them, and we gave it back. Thanks for helping us defeat Japan. Here's your prize. And now everybody's like, oh, guess what language they speak in Taiwan? Chinese. Whoa. Anyway. Granite State Prepper, who's full of poop? Or which one? You talking about the news? Oh, the news is, I'll agree on that one. Only thing we care about are the chips. Yes, we care about the chips in Taiwan. And that's why we started building chip factories here over the past year. And that's why we also went to Vietnam to start boosting up and building up their chip technology and their chip building capabilities. So, yes, Granite State Prepper, I caught that. It took me a second. I'm old. I'm a little slow sometimes. But yes, yeah, you don't know one. Well, Thai food's okay. It's a little bit spicy, but when I'd have a few drinks back in the day, I could eat the spicy. 2 a.m. street food. You didn't really know what it was, but oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's all kinds of things in the world. But like I said, don't believe. We all know. We all talk about how the media is controlled by like a handful of people, maybe two hands. We'll give them two hands, two handfuls of people. So unless you're going through and dissecting everything that they say and bouncing that off of something else, they're just going to feed you a narrative. And it's most people, and it doesn't matter if you're Eastern culture, Western culture, Middle Eastern culture, doesn't matter. Most people will just, oh, okay. They say they're bad, they're bad. Okay. They say they're good, they're good. And it's insanity how they've 1984'd us, or a lot of people. I won't say us because it was not me. 1984. Today, these people are our enemy. Now, those people are our enemy next year. And then these people are our ally. And then these people are our enemy. And then these people are our ally. I mean, I've pointed out numerous times that what they're calling the Axis powers now were the Allied powers in World War II. So what happened there? I don't know. Can't figure that shit out. DB Cooper says, everything I used to believe in is so corrupted. It's hard to wrap your head around it. It can be. It can be. And I understand that. I understand that a lot of people, it's, when just like with religion, if you are taught from conception or birth until 40, 45, it's very hard to break that programming, but you were indeed programmed. Same with believing shit that your government says, believing things that you learned in school, believing things that your mother, father, or uncle told you. If you hear it all your life, you just, well, it must be true. The majority of the things they said were true, so these things must be also, when it's not entirely accurate. Because if they had false information, then it just appeared that they were telling you the truth. They were telling you the truth as they knew it, which doesn't make it factual. Eve gets the blame, but Adam's... So who's at fault? All of us. Yeah, I mean, Russia has been an ally of the U.S. like forever, except the Cold War, which they, and it was a Cold War. It wasn't even a hot war. It was a Cold War. And, if you just watched, think about it. If you just watched the U.S. drop 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, wouldn't you want to try to have a weapons race too? Like, well, shit, if they did it to them, yeah, we need some of those too before other people get them. And then everybody starts getting, oh, we're afraid. Look, now they're trying to get bombs. Well, yeah, if my neighbor got a shotgun, I want one. Common sense. The only way to do it would be to just totally ban all nuclear weapons on a global scale. And that's not going to happen, because once that genie was out the bottle, it was out the bottle. I mean, look at Yemen. Look at Yemen right now. Everybody's talking about the Houthi rebels and this and that in Yemen. But, I mean, hell, it was just over the past few years that we had U.S. mercenaries going into Yemen and assassinating people of influence, lawyers, civil rights activists, politicians, imams, preachers. And if you don't know about that, look up Spears Group. All right. They were a private security firm that was hired by the UAE, supposedly, to go in to Yemen, and they had a kill list, a list of names and pictures and dossiers, and they just had to go through. And Americans, they just drive up, track out their target, slap a bomb on the side of their vehicle, drive away, blow them to kingdom come. And there are some people that are now starting to ask questions about that. Ed Benoit says, ASML Incorporated is the Dutch company that makes the manufacturing equipment for making chips. Guess which three-letter agency sits on the board? Oh, I could only imagine. Get there, and people don't understand. People don't understand how that three-letter agency, how its tentacles are out there, everywhere, and how rich the influence. I mean, it was created by, supposedly, theoretically, for fictional purposes, whatever. Disclaimer. If you've ever heard of the Skull and Bones from Yale, the secret society that multiple U.S. presidents are members of, including the Bushes, they were basically the ones who created the OSS, which then became the CIA. And so you have very rich political families. You want to watch a great movie tonight or tomorrow, if you can find it. I don't know if it's free, whatever. Skull and Bones. Watch it. It's very entertaining. But that'll give you a little bit of insight. It's not entirely accurate. It is a fictional movie, but it'll give you you'll get a sense, all right, of how those guys are. But their ties run deep to politics, and they know everything about everybody, and it's just the way it is. Kwahu, I do not know whose first movie that was, but please enlighten me, because I'd like to have knowledge. Paul Walker. Oh, that's the Fast and the Furious guy. Is that? No. He wasn't in that, was he? Was he in that? I don't know. Huh. I didn't know he was in that. Now I'm going to have to go and watch that movie again. I haven't watched it in years. See, my brain's telling me that there was another guy that. Now I got to look it up. My brain was telling me there was another guy. The Skulls. That's what it was. The Skulls. The Skulls. Cast. Well, hey, yeah. Oh, he was. No, he was the bad guy. Yeah, he was the bad guy. I was visualizing, when you said main character, I was visualizing the Joshua Jackson as the main character, because that's who I was. See, I was thinking about the good guy as being the main character, and you were thinking about the bad guy being a main character. Watching you, Kwahu, watching you. The Skulls, yes, Prepping Plumber, the Skulls. Not the Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is the society that the Skulls movie is supposedly based about. But yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, there are all kinds of good movies out there. I mean, like what was it? Lord of War, after Victor Bout, the arms dealer we just gave to Russia for the basketball player. Yeah. Getting old does suck. I just watched a movie last night. It was surprising. It's called Blocked. It's got a rooster and says Blocked, and it's it's not for kids in any way, shape, or form. And there were some things in there. Of course, had a little bit of woke stuff in it, but it was rather entertaining. It just was something new, and I was like, oh, what's this? I almost blew coffee out my nose at one point. But another good movie. He says, well, we're talking about movies now. See, we'll talk about everything on here. Tag. I love that. And that movie I laughed so hard in the movie Tag. It's an older movie, I think. I'm not sure how long. But hey, Teresa, how are you doing? We already talked about the news, so you missed all the news. You can go back and watch the news. There's some weird stuff going on in our society, in the world. I think I did cover it all. Settlements of West Bank, U.S. threatens China and India, Trump, President of El Salvador, the Yakuza, Alabama, the evacuation in England, the Pentagon investigations. Yep, I covered everything I wanted to talk to you. Now we're just kind of shooting the bull, shooting the breeze, if you will. We were talking about movies and stuff too. Some connections in that movie to Paul Walker and his crash. I do not know about that. Just got home from shopping. Awesome. Hope you didn't spend too much. I know times are tight right now. Pork Chop Hill. I've never heard of that. I watched Hamburger Hill. And what's that? Heartbreak Ridge. That's one of my favorites back in the day. Heartbreak Ridge. Savagely says, actually saw Mad Max Road Warrior. I was just trying to explain how Lord Humongous is actually the good guy and affecting the change he wanted to see in the world. Well, he was a warlord. I mean, he was. I don't know as far as a good guy, considering he had like chicks that were enslaved. But I mean, okay. Old School. I watched Old School last night. I watched that too because I was bored out of my mind. I watched that. You're my boy, Blue. When he took that dart to the neck. I mean, come on. If you were blue, what better way to go out? Huh? I mean, shouldn't say that. Shouldn't think like that. But you found an SOG folding wood and bone saw with case on clearance for $650. I bought 6. Oh, well, okay. There you go. That's gifts. I mean, keep 1 or 2 for yourself and 4 gifts. There you go. Next Christmas, somebody's going to be happy when they get that. Well, yeah. Well, that's kind of what Josh B. What we need is a Thunderdome. That's kind of what they got in Afghanistan. You were convicted of murder. 2 men enter, and 1 guy leaves. The guy that shoots you. So yeah, it kind of worked out. Influencer. Yeah, he was a social media influencer. That's what Lord Humongous was. Wait a minute, Humongous was. Hold on, no, I got him. See, I'm thinking wrong. Humongous was the guy with the hockey mask. I was thinking of the guy that was in Fury Road that was up at the top. That let the water come down. I don't know what his name was. Oh, Immortal Joe. The Immortal Joe. Lord Humongous. I got him mixed up there for a minute. Yeah, Humongous. I mean, he was just like, hey, dude, share the fuel. You share the fuel. We can all do things. But they were like, no, it's our fuel. You can't have any. All right. Well, you get some. You want some, get some. If you're bad enough, you take some. That's the way it is. Single parent survival. Where have you been? Where have you been, single parent? Unacceptable. You missed the entire part of the news brief. The entire part. You have to go back and watch it. Oh, hey, if an ad pops up on here, just let me know. We'll stop talking because I can't remember if I clicked the demonetize or not. I don't remember. So if one has popped up or pops up, then let me know. And we'll just sit around and I'll drink some coffee while the thing goes off. I don't care. Savage Lee says, ew, you eat people you don't use. He has a funny beard. I'm not in that conversation, I guess. I'm not tracking who Savage Lee was talking to, but okay. Beaverines for Trump. William Pence says, I'm wrong. William Pence. Okay. I'm wrong, not the Knight Rider, the color-haired guy on the motorcycle. I don't remember which one that was. There was one with a mohawk or some stuff. Remember to learn skills even if you suck at them. Yeah, just, everybody can learn. Everybody can learn something. Rob, my wife is in prison. I'm raising my little girl alone. I want to get away from the city. I understand you want to get away from the city. You should, I would think, have all the parental rights at this point. So you should be able to just up and move. And it's not always easy, but it can be done. I don't know where you live or your specific circumstances or what your skill is, age, ability to learn to learn new things, but there is it can always be done. Okay. Moved from Sacramento to Nevada. So there's that. But yeah, if you want to get away from the city, you can make it happen. You can find a way. You look at, who was it? Well, Sacagawea carried a damn baby on her back on the damn expedition. All right. So if a little Indian girl, a little native girl can walk 1,000 miles with her little papoose, you can get it done too. I have faith in you. I know you can. You just have to find a way. I side with face tattoo felons. They know how to combat. Listen, speaking of that, thank you, Joe Morgan, for bringing that up. That was like one of the things, like the El Salvadorian president. You like if you had facial tattoo, you're a gang member. You're going to prison. Doesn't like he was just pulling random people. If society shifts, if everything collapses one day, one of the biggest threats to your safety is having a facial tattoo. It's going to be one of the biggest threats. And I know you might not like that. It might not seem fair, but you're going to have a lot of people that see that and go, nope, and send a nope pill downrange at you. What is that? Oh, here, take a look. And someone, yeah, nope. That's it. Ain't even dealing with it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you shouldn't judge people by facial tattoos first. Let me explain something. The reason why people, and I know people with facial tattoos, but there comes a point when they have to acknowledge, and most of them do, they're like, oh, I wish I'd never got that. Well, that's the way you should have been thinking in the first place. Because most people that don't have facial tattoos look at that and go, that person is incapable of making logical, rational, good decisions. So, in a post-SHTF environment, or even before right now, employers, when you're, well, employee, it's hard to get a job with it. An employer looks at it and says, I don't want somebody who's not good at making decisions operating this equipment that can kill people. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And post SHTF, there are going to be people that look and go, no, don't want them in my society. Nope, we're tired of it. We had enough of that left-wing liberal crazy crap. We don't need shake and bake around here. Done, gone. And that's just the way it is. That's right. 231 was in here earlier. I forgot to say hi to you. But does that make sense? A lot of people, if you have a facial tattoo and shit hits the fan, you better link up with a whole bunch of people that don't and are good people, because that's what's going to keep you safe. They're the ones that are going to vouch for you. All right. They're going to be like, no, look, when he was like 15, he had a jacked up situation, and that's why he looks like that. He's a good person. Because if you don't have anybody to vouch for you, there are going to be a lot of people that are just going to be trigger happy and willing to drop you in a second. Ear gauges, all those, anything equated with standing out. Once shit goes down, once shit goes sideways, you're going to have the people that stand out and the people that don't. And the people that don't are going to want to get rid of the perceived problem. And what the perceived problem that brought society to its knees were the people that stand out in their mind. All the lefties, and you might be conservative as hell, but if you visually from a distance look like a lefty, you will be in danger. You will be in danger. There will be some people out there like me that are like, what's up? That may give you a few moments, 10 seconds to answer a question or two. There's going to be a lot who won't. Joe Moore says there are no safe spaces. Yeah, there's not supposed to be. Yeah, the only I create. You know what? This is a safe space. This right here where I'm at is a safe space. You know why? Does anybody know why this is a safe space? I'll tell you why. Because I'm in it. I'm in it. I make my safe space. Wherever my little feet goes. And that's why I say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I've experienced it. I have been the dude that the power went a little bit, and that's why I try to keep people in my circle that'll be like, you don't have to wipe out the whole village, bro. Because I've been that dude where I came in on a little Iraqi dude and slammed him against the wall of his own house. And he's like, this is my house. And I was like, no, well, I'm fucking standing in it, bro. It's my house. Because at that moment, I was in that zone. That machine was on. And I don't like that guy. I don't like that much. People, and that's why people are like, oh, you're such a good man, Rob. Oh, you have no idea what I am capable of, what I have been. And it's very hard, especially if shit goes down, it's going to be hard to maintain this level of civility that we have right now. Because in a world without civility, it's easy to revert to very primordial methods, if that makes sense. That's right, Cigar Prepper. Your safe space is wherever the hell you are. You're absolutely right. Blue Steel Prepper. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because, and I reflect on that. Once in a while. And I'm like, oh, I was a dick. But I'm alive. But I was a dick. I can still hear the words coming out of my mouth. I can still feel my forearm up against that little chest. Washburn Miller says, I'm not sure that's would let anyone in, let alone with face tats. I have more than that. Yeah, you have more than that to protect. I get it. Michigan Outpost, there you are. Almost forget your name. So that's why I said 231. And there's a time, Joe Morgan says, I embrace my inner animal, Rob. It's fine. There's a time for that. There's a time you have to be comfortable with what you are. And I am. Don't get me wrong. I am comfortable with that. That's the problem, is that I can be totally comfortable with that. So consciously, I have to make the choice not to do that. If that makes sense to you. Oh, I'm quite comfortable with that. I would be quite comfortable with turning this entire new United States of America into a theological dynasty, an empire, if you will. Republic, but governed based off of theology. But I see the road where that can go. It can go really good or it can go really bad. Granted, state purposes, people don't know what they're capable of. People that do know It's hard to rein things in once it gets rolling. Yes. Yeah, it is. Once the switch is flipped. That's why, there are a lot of soldiers out there, sailors, Marines. There are a lot of veterans with PTSD. There's a lot of people that aren't veterans that have PTSD from very traumatic physical violence happening to them in the world in different scenarios. And they label with PTSD, and they're like, take this pill and see this shrink, and take this other pill and take this pill and do this and do that, instead of addressing the actual issue that a part of you, a part of your mind has been turned on that was intended for you to survive. And now you can call it evolved or devolved, whichever way you actually want to think about it. But there's nothing wrong with you. If you have PTSD, listen to me, if one of you has PTSD, there is nothing wrong with you. Yes, you might feel, and I'm not saying that it's not a problem for you. There's a difference between not being a problem for you and there's nothing wrong with you. You are the way you are supposed to be. Because that happens, because something happened, your brain flipped. If PTSD, if that wasn't supposed to happen, if your brain wasn't supposed to start functioning that way, it would never function. It wouldn't be capable of functioning that way. So you are exactly the way you're supposed to be based off of the experiences that you have encountered. The problem is society says that something is wrong with you. Your brain's not working right. You're too paranoid. You're too aggressive. No, you are a product of evolution, if you will. You're a product of your environment. Does that make sense? Yes, Kwahu, it's a reaction to a problem. Jordan Peterson talks about being dangerous yet of peace. It's a great way. Yes, it talks about you can't be a good man unless you're a dangerous man. And you can't, being dangerous doesn't mean that you're not good. Because if a dangerous man has to choose to be peaceful. And that's what makes him a good man. Someone who is incapable of violence isn't a good person just because they're incapable of violence. It just means they're not capable. If they were capable, then they'd have the option to show whether or not they were peaceful or violent. I'm tracking on the Jordan Peterson. If any of you haven't seen that, go watch Jordan Peterson's talk about a violent man. It is a good segment. MacGyver Purposes Bible says to stay outside the camp for 7 days when coming home from battle. Wonder if that's for mental health or the V. Well, it could be several different things. I have to go and look at it. A lot of people expect you to know what the Bible says verbatim. I do not have a memory that can grasp all of that knowledge at one time. I recall things like that, and then I'll have to go back and review it again. But there would be many benefits to one, you're decompressing, you're transitioning back into civilian life, if you will, and also anything that you might have picked up on a battlefield would potentially have chance to incubate and show whether or not you were sick, just like you're supposed to take the sick and segregate them. That's what we were saying during 2020. You quarantine sick people, not healthy people. Captain Coral says, hey, Jesus was dangerous too. He was capable. He chose peace and he chose violence. Remember, he braided a whip and slapped the shit out of the people that were exchanging money in his father's house. So, but at the other time, he took and put a soldier's ear back on after it was cut off. So, he did what was necessary when it was necessary. Yeah, he flipped some tables, but that was after he hit him with a whip. Yeah. And if you don't know that, then go read the verse above the flipping tables part in any version of the Bible that you want. There you go, Joe Morgan. He said, I'm not a smart man and I'm not special, but I can throw down. There you go. And post SHTF will need warriors. We will need warriors. As long as you got good values. As long as you got good values. So you missed a lot. Dynamite, it's 55 minutes. I think you might have missed something. Thank you for showing up, though. I know you were busy relaxing in your in-ground swimming pool. There, Dynamite, doing some laps, getting in shape for the post-apocalypse stuff. I know. Rabid Coyotes in the house. Maccabees. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Post SHTF, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Like I already said, I can see, if it's before I die, it'll be interesting. If it's after I'm dead and gone, dang hair, mustache. If it's after, oh man, I already see my Bobby as a Grand Inquisitor. I can just see it. I can see it. I've created a monster, but it takes monsters to fight monsters sometimes. It does. Hey, everyone from the East Tennessee Mountains. Hey, there you go. James Trump, 24 Price. Glad you can be here. What Savagely say? Well, lucky it was just. Yeah, they were lucky that it was just Jesus flipping over tables and not God showing his wrath. Yeah. When he tends to and that's what I try to tell people, and listen, this might, everybody's so set on right now. This is the end of days. This is the end of days. It's slipped into almost every prepper channel. Everybody talks, it's the end of days. But there have been many instances throughout history when people thought it was the end of days. Many times. I'm not even going to list them because there's that many times that people thought it was the end of days. And if it is, then it is. And if it isn't, what I would suggest is that we as a society start getting this house, as in this nation, in order. Because if it's not the end of days, like where he's going to just get rid of the whole world and call everybody home and cast everybody else out that he doesn't want, if it's not that time yet, I don't know how much time this country has left until it goes the way of Sodom and Gomorrah and he just wipes it off the map, because he only allows places like this to get so nasty and so big for so long. And maybe if it's not the end of days, he just goes ahead and wipes this one off the map, and 500 years down the road, somebody else that reestablished here will get the joy of experiencing the actual end of days. Either way, end of days or not end of days, this shit is coming to an end sooner than we think. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, Washburn. I'm tracking on the Israel became a nation again in 1946. But what happens if all of a sudden it doesn't become a nation again? What if it goes away? Then we have to wait for it to become a nation another time. We don't know. That's the point. We don't know. We know what he says is going to happen, but we don't know when it's going to happen. It says when Israel becomes a nation again. But is he talking after it became a nation the second time, third time, first time, fourth time? To assume that it's the second time is to assume that you know what God thinks. I know that I don't know. That's how I think. So, I mean, Israel became a nation in 1946. But if next week all the Middle Eastern countries wipe it out, then we have to wait for it to become a nation again. So we have to wait and see. Have to wait and see. You know when I'll say when I will say that it's the end of days, when I'll say it's the end, when there are two dudes standing at the Wailing Wall, burning people up with fire, and bugs with scorpion tails and shit come flying out of the ground and start stinging people. And when some dude is bringing peace around the world, and it's like, hey, you have to take this mark. When I see that stuff, I'll agree 100%. I'm like, oh, this is it. Oh, this is it. Until I see those things, I'll be like, I'll wait and see. Now, if you want to talk about, here's something theologically and scientifically. I always say on here, I say religion is the why and science is the how, because a lot of people like to separate those. All right, and it doesn't make sense to separate those in my mind. Well, depending on what major religion you're in, a lot of people say, well, when you die, you go to heaven. But if you actually read most of the books, it says you're still in the ground until the day of judgment. And then people will say, oh, well, if you die, I go to paradise. And other people disagree. How is my loved one in heaven right now watching down on me? Or is my loved one in the ground per what the Bible said? And here's one way, a possibility. I'm not saying it's this way or not. So don't get in the chat and leave a message that's this long about how with verses and stuff. God is outside of time and space. God is in the past. He is in the present. He is in the future right now. We as humans think of time as linear. Starting here in the past, traveling towards the future, point here. When we're the only ones that see time as such. So if God is outside of time, the past, the present, and the future are all happening right now. And right now. And right now. So, if you died in the past, you're in heaven right now. And if you're in the future, you're already in heaven right now, if that's where you were supposed to go, because God is outside of time and space. Think about that for a while. It'll make your brain melt. Not so much like string theory. String theory would be multiple dimensions just like this, but with different timelines where different things happen. Like I said, time by humans is typically thought of as linear. It starts here and goes there. But they've shown that atoms on different, no matter if you have I forget what they're called, like binary atoms, that twin atoms, and you take them, no matter how far apart you spread them, if something happens to one, it happens to the other, even though instantly. Doesn't matter how far apart they are in space, how much time it takes to get between the two. It happens instantly because they are operating on a quantum level that we don't yet fully understand. And so if God is outside of time and space, then he exists everywhere, always, at all time. And so the past, present, and future all go back to him, regardless of when or where he is, based off of our small, minute concept of space-time. Yes, time isn't constant. You are correct. And theoretically, dimensions other than this can't exist. And quite possibly that is theoretically where heaven comes into play, hell comes into play, dimensional levels. So, when they say that Lucifer was cast out of paradise, out of heaven, it could simply be that he was cast out of that dimension into another dimension, and still has some reach from that dimension into this dimension, but not into the heavenly dimension. And some people say he can, depending on your theology, he still talks to the man upstairs. But who knows? I'll find out one day. Oh yeah, I didn't. Okay, I did demonetize this because it doesn't have the little things at the bottom. Well, Josh B. Purgatory, as far as my understanding is, was pretty much a creation of the Catholic Church. I never really did a deep dive on it. I was taught about it as a child because I was raised by nuns, so that was part of their belief system as well. But I never did too much research into that. But now I've got to dig further into purgatory. Now I've got to dig further into that, as if I didn't study enough stuff. But thank you. Who was it? It said Josh B. Oh, I know, Quahu. Purgatory is not hell or heaven. It's that in-between place. I'm tracking on the concept, but I've never actually done a deep dive on where the concept of it came from, who started spreading the concept, what all faiths or sects of faiths embrace it or reject it, and that's what I want to look at. I'm well aware of what purgatory is. I just need to do some more research on it. Well, I don't know if you may believe that you were there, Quahu, but I think that once you leave, once the soul leaves the body, it don't come back. Coming back to the body, that would be, or a body would be more of reincarnation. You may have been in some protective state that God created for us in the event of such an accident transpiring, but I believe that your soul never left your body, and for you to be in purgatory, you would have, in theory, had to have left your body, if that makes sense. I'm sorry that you had an accident, though. I've been run over on a motorcycle myself, hit head on, and it was, grace of God. No helmet, rolled right up the person's windshield into the air, landed. Had some, yes, purgatory, limbo, same word, root cellar, depending on how you were raised. But like I said, I'm going to do a bigger dive on that. Yes, that's GMA Nana. That's my understanding of it. But I want to see. Now I'm Rob. I can't just once I get I'm like a dog with a bone. Once I get it, I've got to dig into it. All right. But yes. Well, see, and that's funny because I was raised Catholic and Protestant. That's how I was raised. I was raised Catholic by nuns until like 9. And then from like 9 on, I was raised as a Protestant. So that's a real, like, what are y'all talking about? Because this is what they were talking about. Yeah, that'll. All right, Blue Steel. Glad you were here. Okay, I forgot I had it. I had the X, the Twitter thing, but thank you. Rabbit Coyote says, it's funny to me that so much of the religions have practices, beliefs, and celebrations that we heathens have celebrated long before there was the religions. I just find that peculiar. What do you mean? How do you find that peculiar? You don't know? If you don't know, I'll explain it to you. You just type I don't know, because I thought you were joking for a second. Rabbit Coyote. I'll explain it. It's really simple. Okay, I think you were just joking. Quagga says, Outlaw, I think we are in that limbo state, and that's what I was seeing and asking God to give me a second chance at life. Possibly. But yeah, Root Cell or Rabbi Coyote, if you honestly, let's see, what's who say the heathens celebrate the seasons? Yeah, that's where Quahu. That's where. Oh, you find it interesting. I mean, and Quahu, Rabbi Coyote is right because if you look right now, the days are getting longer. You look in the winter, the days are getting shorter. Easter is the celebration of Esther. Christmas is the celebration of the winter solstice. The Catholic Church, when they were like on their crusades and stuff, basically they took over when they were spreading Christianity with the sword, peacefully. They would, if they found a religion that the people just wouldn't let go of in an area that they were trying to conquer and convert, they would find some way to make that religion part of the church. So the celebration of Easter is pronounced Esther, and she's the fertility goddess. And her symbols were bunnies and eggs. Sound familiar? So basically, the church co-opted other people's religions, said, it's okay. You can become a Christian. You can believe in Jesus because our celebration is on the same day as yours. And they're like, oh, well, okay. And then they just slid in the Easter eggs and the Easter bunnies and the fertility gods and called it Easter. And that was done as part of a conversion campaign. All right. Yes, same with Christmas. But a lot of people don't realize that. And like I said, calendars change over time. They had different calendars back then. Some places went by lunar calendars. Some people went, but calendars have changed a lot. Measurement of time has changed a lot. Do you think that they knew that there was a leap year 2,000 years ago? Nope. It wasn't that precise. Yes. All right, Bruce Ellis says, my grandmother was a nun, and thankfully she got so sick that the mother house told her that it wasn't her calling. The world was blessed with me because of that. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, look at the Chinese. It's even in the Middle East, a lot of the countries, they use a lunar calendar. All right, they use the Gregorian calendar just for business purposes, but they still go by a lunar calendar. China has, if you on the ground, there's the Chinese New Year, is different. You all see on the news, oh, look, it's Chinese New Year, and it's like June or some crazy shit. It's because they have their own calendars, their own way of telling time. Right? Why? Because time, again, is all made up. Oh, yeah, our calendar is jacked. Our calendar is jacked, too. I don't even know what the 7 feasts are, Quahu. But now I'm going to have to look it up. Oh, okay. You observe Hanukkah over the Christmas season. I got you. Heathen. It's all right. Kentucky Survival. Yeah, it's all right. We're still here. It's okay. You can always watch the replay. Handy Purpose says, I have so much to learn. I just like the Friday fish fries. There's always something to learn. I learn new stuff all the time. I mean, I'm going to learn more stuff because I'm going to look at stuff about seven feasts. I'm going to look up stuff about purgatory. I'm going to do deep dives on that. Hey, Scott Wabash, or pardon me, Scott Bashaw. See, that's my little dyslexia there, Wabash. Read your name backwards almost. Got to go back in time. Yes, 55 miles an hour required. 88 miles an hour to get back to 1955. See, reversing stuff in my head again. Yeah. There's fish fries on Fridays and stuff. Lent, and then what's next? Ramadan starts October. What month is this? January, February, March 10th. And then I think that's the last big one until we start getting back in towards like Christmas and everything like that. Well, I appreciate all of you being here. We've been here well over an hour. Thank you all. I will look into some of these things that we've talked about, and we'll see what we can find out. And I will talk to you guys in the future. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your support for the channel. I'll be a heathen over a 2-hour Sunday Christian any day. Good night, everybody. Till next time, take care. God bless. My baby sharks. Daddy loves you, and I'm out.